بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والعدوان إلا على الظالمين والعاقبة للمتقين اللهم صل وسلم وبارك على عبدك ورسولك محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم تسليما كثيرا. First and foremost, I want to thank you and congratulate them on a wonderful convention, mashallah, to have all of you here. And I want to thank each and every single one of you for making the commitment to be here with Allah Ta'ala and to engage not just with the sessions, but hopefully, inshallah Ta'ala, with the very important work that ICNA does in so many different capacities. Secondly, I want to begin with something that may seem unrelated, but that is front and center right now in my heart and in my mind, and I'm sure so many of you, which is what is happening in Palestine today. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala liberate the Masjid al-Aqsa, allow us to pray in a free Masjid al-Aqsa. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala liberate our brothers and sisters in Palestine. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala grant them sakina, grant them tranquility. May He protect them as they are under this heavy bombardment. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give them victory over their oppressors. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala free them from the occupation once and for all. Allahumma ameen. Say ameen. And I want to actually start with a story of Gaza. When we talk about resilience, there are different forms of resilience that exist in the world today. There's the resilience that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us about in the Quran that we often seek to nurture in ourselves and in our generation, which is to get to a point of وَلَا يَخَافُونَ لَوْمَةَ لَائِمٍ, that we do not fear the blame of the blamers. There is the resilience of being able to sit in a gathering and to be the only Muslim, or to be a person who maintains their principles in a very unique way, and to find yourself estranged because your values do not line up with the values of people around you, but you are moved towards not only verbalizing those values and manifesting them, but being a positive source in society, even when society tells you in dominant form that you don't belong in the first place. Where you go from not only saying that we belong, but that we have something to offer at the spiritual, social, and physical level to society around us. That we're here not just to merely exist, but to serve as well with our deen proudly. We will not shy away from our deen, and we will live it in a way that bi'idhnillahi ta'ala will show other people in a time of moral decay that there is a better way forward, and that is the way of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. There is that level of self-actualization of la yakhafuna lawmata la'im, that we don't fear the blame of the blamers. But there is a level of self-actualization that the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam reserved for a specific people. And when you talk about those people, they are the people who the Prophet ﷺ mentioned, a ta'ifa, a group from this ummah. And there are different words that are used for groups in the Quran and in the Sunnah. There are different collective efforts that are alluded to. There is the general effort. وَالْعَصْرِ إِنَّ الْإِنسَانَ لَفِي خُسْرٍ إِلَّا الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا وَعَمِلُوا الصَّالِحَاتِ وَتَوَاصَوْا بِالْحَقِّ وَتَوَاصَوْا بِالصَّبْرِ. The loosest association that exists is the bare minimum that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sets for us, that by time that is fleeting away, verily man is at loss except for those who work together and enjoin one another in patience and in righteousness. Tawasaw bil-haqqi wa tawasaw bis-sabr. There is that level where we are doing that right now bi'idhnillahi ta'ala. There is a deen al-nasiha. The religion is sincere advice that your brother, your sister deserves from you, and the type of relationship that we have with one another is a tanasur, is to give each other sincerity, goodwill. SubhanAllah, the word nasiha means goodwill. We have goodwill towards one another, and that's why you try to honor your brother and sister by giving them the nasiha that can make them the most pleasing in the sight of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You have the dua for your brother and sister, bil-ghayb, especially in the unseen, when they don't even know. So you give them nasiha when you speak to them. You make dua when you don't see them, for them. There is the right of your brother and sister that you visit one another, that you pray in each other's janazah, that when someone sneezes, you say, Alhamdulillah, yarhamukallah. And the Prophet ﷺ established these as huquq, the right of salam. And then there is the collective work, وَلَتَكُنْ مِنْكُمْ أُمَّةٌ يَدْعُونَ إِلَى الْخَيْرِ. A small group of you who call towards good, تَأْمُرُونَ بِالْمَعْرُوفِ وَتَنْهَوْنَ عَنِ الْمُنْكَرِ. You enjoy good and you forbid evil. But then there is that smallest group of people that the Prophet ﷺ mentioned. A group of people from my ummah who will always be upon the truth, clear as night and day. ظاهرين. There is absolutely no ambiguity to the fact that they are upon a righteous cause. قاهرين لعدوهم. Their enemies despise them because of their perseverance. And the Prophet ﷺ mentioned in different narrations, descriptions of these people, لا يضرهم من خذلهم. And this is really what I want you to pay attention to. They are not dissuaded by those who turn their backs on them. لا يضرهم من خذلهم. Those who turn their backs on them do not hurt them in any way, because they know that they are upon the truth, they know that they are upon justice, they know that they're upon righteousness, they are nurtured by something that is divine, therefore they do not depend upon the material to build resilience within themselves. And the Prophet ﷺ mentioned, and they will be given victory. They have the aid of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala until the day of judgment. And we said to the Prophet ﷺ, who are they? The Prophet ﷺ mentioned the people of Bayt al-Maqdis wa Aknaf, Bayt al-Maqdis on the edge of the Holy Land. We see a living example today in people who have gone beyond وَلَا يَخَافُونَ لَوْمَةَ لَائِمٍ, not fearing the blame of the blamer, to لَا يَضُرُّهُم مَنْ خَذَلَهُم, not even dissuaded by those who have turned their backs on them. We see those people in Palestine today. We talk about the Sahaba, we talk about the companions that passed, and the example that they have set with us of resilience. And we can draw from the example of our Prophet ﷺ and the example of the prophets that came before, of sabr, of perseverance and patience. Musa alayhi salam, Isa alayhi salam, Ibrahim alayhi salam, and so on and so forth. And then the examples of Abu Bakr and Umar and Uthman and Ali and Nusayba bint Ka'b and Al-Bara ibn Malik and Jabir ibn Abdullah. We can draw from those examples in the past. But I want you to recognize that you have a living example of resilience in the people of Gaza today. You have a living example of resilience, a legendary example of resilience in the people of Palestine and the people of Gaza today. They are a people who have been suffocated, who have had everything taken away from them, and whose enemy has tried to break them down mentally, psychologically, emotionally, in every single way, suffocated them. While their brothers and sisters sign on to the Abraham Accords and sign on to agreements that completely disenfranchise them, even from the political power of the Muslim world. And you know what they do? They go to Salatul Fajr. You know what they do? They still live their lives. You know what they do? They still insist upon education. You know what they do? They insist upon their deen. You know what they do? They talk about their own liberation, and even these tiny places of the world, if everybody else has moved on from them, they have not moved on, because they do not exist for themselves. They exist for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. When you talk to people in Gaza, when you talk to young people in Gaza, they know that they exist for a greater purpose than themselves. Otherwise, they would have laid down long ago and given up on their own existence. These young people that still want to get married, that still want to live their lives. If you've ever seen the weddings in Gaza, and you see 1,000, 2,000 people getting married at the same time. Want to talk about building resilience? People that will get married 1,000, 2,000 at the same time. And where are you going to honeymoon? At the coast of Gaza, where you have just a couple of hotels, a few hotels, where you can spend your time together and still insist on existence. Their resistance is their very existence. And subhanAllah, when we are here and we're talking about how we build resilience, I just want to take a moment and say that we don't just build resilience by looking at the people in the past. We build resilience by looking at the legends of the present as well. And they are setting an example for us as a people under over 7 decades of a brutal occupation, 7 decades of suffocation, and they still breathe free. They still say La ilaha illallah. They still say Palestine. They still draw their own maps. They still draw their own flags. They still refuse to be erased. That is divine aid. That is a legendary example for us all. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give them the support that they need. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala allow those children that have grown up now under the bombardment, 4 or 5 bombardments under the age of 6 years old. You've seen everything around you taken from you. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give them the perseverance, the hope that is necessary to survive, to move forward. And may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala be with our oppressed brothers and sisters wherever they are, the innocent, the weak, the downtrodden, wherever they are. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala be with them and help them against the machinery of oppression that exists today that cannot overcome the aid of divine support. Allahumma ameen. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless you.